Welcome, everybody, to the Minions of the Zoo. It's Tuesday night, so the keeper is me, Skep, Tock. And with me, I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
And the Harry channel.
Good evening.
Welcome, gentles all. I hope you're having a wonderful evening this evening. Prospero, seems like I haven't talked to you in a long time. You and I were just chatting about that before the show. How's things been going? Anything new with you?
Nothing spectacularly new. Just still kind of in limbo, waiting for the work on the old house to be done.
Just to catch people who might be catching the show for the first time. Prospero just moved, and moving is fun.
Yes,
Moving's great fun.
Moving's hilarious. It's just a laugh riot. I recommend it to everybody to not do it. It's fine. You know, now that we're in, it's fine. And watching other people suffer, there's a certain amount of
satisfaction.
Well, no, it's kind of like, you poor bastards, you know, as I see moving trucks pull up. But
as I said, satisfaction.
Yeah, there is. I'm satisfied. It is not I.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
the great happiness.
From whence rises my sense of satisfaction.
I get the same feeling when I see a bunch of guys standing on the rail of a Navy ship, pulling out. Going, see you guys.
Glad it's you. Yeah. There's. It is
voyage.
It is kind of funny in that regard, you know, like watching somebody plant a tree and going, I'm glad I don't have to be digging that hole.
You know, it's funny. Years ago, I went back. I was visiting to the Naval Air Station at Alameda, and my old ship was there, and it was the day they were pulling out to for a deployment for a Westpac, and so and they have an open house and the ship's dependents and so forth went on board. My buddy, who was a JAG at the base, said, "Hey, why don't you come over? You can see your old ship." And you know, I remember I was talking with the executive officer of the ship, and I was telling him about my time aboard and all this stuff, and I remember looking at his eyes, and I wished him, I said, have a great cruise, you know, be safe out there. And I just saw the hopelessness and worry in his eyes. And I felt so happy that it wasn't me anymore. Someone else was hopeless and worried.
Yeah. It says, have you taken a look at the people that are on board this ship with me?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm going to have a great cruise, buddy. Thanks. You know?
Well, you know, you have to realize this was probably 1983, you know, so it wasn't a woke monstrosity yet, but
no, but there was some weaponized dumb.
Well, I just remember thinking, you know, how hard it is to do all the things you have to do aboard a ship. Operating a ship is really hard. I don't know why that memory came back, but it's. I just remember thinking about, man, I know what you have ahead of you, and you do too.
So operating a ship is hard. Are you serious? You mean it's not like getting in a car where you just turn the ignition and
like a Tesla, you know, drives itself. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like.
I mean, everything just sort of runs. It's not like they're constantly fixing things and no, it's fine.
Yeah.
And saving people from their own stupidity and
it's not even you know, when you're out at sea, you can be doing everything right, following all the rules, and you'll still get screwed. You can run into an island just because you have a chart that has the island or the rock. That's usually what it is. It's like a shoal area that is that is shown in the wrong place. You know, it was just printed wrong, you know, or recorded wrong probably. And you get the feeling when you're sailing a ship in the great big endless gray sea that the world is Mr. Sluggo and you are Mr. Bill.
It's just waiting for its chance.
Truly,
Well, that's what they say though about any form of sailing.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
that there are those who have already run aground and those who are about to. And it's not that is not said in jest at all. It is just when you think everything is fine and you've got a handle on it, you know what you're doing.
You are so right.
Yeah,
you're right on the nose.
Yeah, guess what?
Right on the nose.
You and Mr. Hubris are going to have a conversation.
Exactly.
It's like,
maybe perhaps Mr. Carmel will join.
Yeah, and God damn it.
Yeah, we used to have a saying back. This was the state of the absolute state of PCs back in about 1986, 87. There are those who have lost data, and there are those who will lose data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our worst enemy is hubris. It really is, because it breeds a certain degree of laissez-faire complacence, and then all of a sudden,
I don't need backups. I've got RAID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's its own backup.
Yes, it's own backup. All right. I have to tell my RAID story very quickly. So, and this actually, I fired this guy this was when I was running the IT shop for Colonial Savings, which is actually kind of a big shop. It's a coast to coast, 32 branches across the United States, $8 billion, big company, a lot of responsibility. And this guy was in there showing a new programmer that we had a RAID stack on this Novell server. And it was an old Novell server that I was in the process of converting. And he pulled one of the drives out to show what a big stud he was. He just pulled it out of the stack, which you can do safely. And he said, see, it still runs, and plugs it back in. Harry knows what this guy did next. Don't you, Harry?
Oh, yeah.
See, then he talked to the girl some more, and he was trying to impress her, and she was a pretty little Japanese thing. And then he said, yeah, you just grip it real, and he gripped the drive underneath the one he had pulled out and pulls it out. And when you do that, okay, what RAID, without really going into a lot of explanation about what parity bits and stuff are, what RAID does, it protects you against losing one of the drives in your stack of drives. It does this by doing a data redundancy mapping routine that it keeps track of all of the data, on all of the drives, but there's a little bit of redundancy, slop over, so that you can lose any one drive and still have all of the data from all of the drives on the remaining drives. But if you pull a second one out, you have just turned yourself into a restore from tape situation, because you no longer have any usable data really without a major data recovery effort based on that. When he did that, I said, Ted, I want to talk to you. I fired him an hour later.
I think you need to go spend more time with your family and stop showing off for the Japanese girl.
I was so pissed off. He had, this guy had, this guy had caused some legal problems for the company. They were so happy to see him go.
Thanks for being a predictable douche.
God.
Yeah.
And getting that server back was a supreme pain in the ass.
Well, if you'll allow me, I can use the story you just told as a jumping off point to the topic that you said you wanted to discuss.
Please do.
You're welcome. So instead of telling you about my boring ass day, because trust me, it was boring, all I did yesterday was taxes, and it was about halfway through the day when I realized there was information that was missing, and I didn't think it was missing, and it was just a huge Charlie Foxtrot. And And I did about halfway through the day make an appointment to get some new glasses because I put that off from before the pandemic, and I was in serious eye pain halfway through the day, and it's like, okay, this day is not getting any better. But be that as it may, the guy who pulled that one drive out is a perfect example of somebody who has enough information that they've convinced themselves they know what they're doing. Right? So he's like, oh, RAID, redundant. I can pull one drive out. Look at, I'm showing off how robust our system is. Unfortunately, the surface level of knowledge that this guy had was insufficient for him to understand how things actually worked, or he wouldn't have done the thing he did after that. Honestly, you really wouldn't even want to pull the same drive out that you just pulled out for reasons that we won't go into. But he knew enough to know that it was redundant.
Yes.
He just didn't know enough to know that it wasn't redundant in that way. Like, you can't just start pulling lots of extra drives out and expect everything to work.
It's not infinitely redundant.
Yeah, and so he had sort of the sales brochure level of understanding, right?
Yep.
And there's so many things. There's so many things in this world that we all have the sales brochure level of understanding of. And I think that the internet has made it so people think that they're experts in things that they really aren't. And
they should have an effect or a principle that would be called something, the something principle. What can we call it?
I don't know, but the thing is, it's complicated.
I think it should have
because
two names.
If you go to a doctor, your doctor's got 15 minutes to talk to you most of the time, and if it's the VA, it's going to be a hard 7. Whatever it is, it's not going to be very long, right? So you can probably go on the interwebs and look up information about 90% of problems with more specificity to your case than they have time to get into. So even though they have all sorts of expertise that you don't have, you're kind of closer to the problem and you might actually figure some stuff out. But there are broad categories, and experts like that give other experts sort of a bad name. And it used to be that you had to go to the oracles of information, like, oh, you want to know what's going on with petroleum prices? Well, let's call up Trilby Lundberg and have oil analyst Trilby Lundberg come on our news show and then tell us why oil's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And now everybody's a freaking expert. Everybody's an expert on everything because we have the internet, or at least so we think. I think in reality, most people, myself included, are not much better than that guy who pulled 2 drives out of a RAID 5.
You're so much better than he was.
Well, I mean, at that specific thing, but I'm talking about things that I'm not an expert at.
Well, Dunning-Kruger is a thing.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was obviously making fun.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it, but it should have 2 names. Something that makes me think of dumb. Oh, Dunning. Part of the problem that you're going to have with this infinite source of information called the interwebs is if you don't have people who have achieved critical thinking skills in their education, they have a lot of words. They don't have a lot of knowledge. They have things they think, like you said, they know, but they don't really know those things. They've memorized some stuff, but they don't really know why it's important. What consequences could potentially be downstream from
so they memorize the words, but they can't hear the music.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Because knowledge application are one thing, but if you don't have the developed critical thinking to understand what the consequences of the application of the knowledge might be, where this might go, you're not synthesizing information. You're just regurgitating it. Nothing's happening beyond stuff's getting jammed in a file cabinet. in your head. And I hear tell that it's a big pain in the ass in the medical community because they have a bunch of people who have gone to WebMD or Mayo Clinic and they've seen something. And so they think they know about that body system based on something they've seen. It's requiring people in the actual trade of medicine to talk them down from their belief that this particular wonder drug that they saw advertised that might do XYZ will fix all their problems, or
But
maybe
you gotta
they have
realize
this
that
or
doctor
that.
has just been talked to by the pharmaceutical rep who has maybe promised him a fat payoff or
Yes.
some nice thing if he'll just give this drug a try. Just give me 10 patients. That's the class.
Oh yeah, they're
when
relying.
I was in the business. Give me 10 patients, doctor. Give me 10 patients. You'll be amazed that
Right, and you're not around to have to pay the consequences when that goes sideways. So,
well, yeah, and you're right. And sometimes, like with Pfizer, they were making a drug that was absolutely appropriate. It was a great drug for it. Others, you had to go in, and Pfizer wanted you to really, truly represent something as being the best when everybody in the room, including you yourself, know it's not even the third best. And you have to. That was always a problem with Pfizer. I mean, they would go out and advertise tetracyclines as being good for respiratory problems when tetracyclines don't have much effect against staph and strep. They're very good against H flu, and which means that it will cure a lot. It has some effect against staph and strep, but not enough. And there, when you do that over time, you're eventually going to kill some little kid who could have survived if they'd been given ampicillin. That's the shitty thing.
Yeah. It's, I guess the thing is people smile and nod at doctors very frequently and do what they say and take the pills that they give them without ever looking the pills up. This goes all the way back to early days of my working in the bookstore in the 1980s when I couldn't bat it out of their hand because the book was a little heavy, but if I'd see a person pick up a PDR, which was the physician's desk reference that listed every drug that was currently out, all its base chemistry as well as its interactions, counterindications, potential side effects, yada yada.
Indications, contraindications, precautions,
yes,
warnings, and drug interactions. Those
right.
5.
And it went down into we've all heard the ad where you'd bebida death, listed after drugs. There are rare side effects that occur, and then there are much more common side effects that occur. And people don't need to know about the rare ones as much as they need to know about the common ones. And the main reason is hypochondria is a thing. And people will actually manifest in their brain side effects that they're not having from medication if they're nervous Nellies about stuff. There's a nice little book that Bantam published at the time. I don't know who publishes it now. It's in its bajillionth iteration called The Pill Book, which basically gives you what the pharmacy gives you, which are the common side effects. And maybe a little bit more information, but it's not as in depth. you didn't want an entire nation of people with PDRs in their homes, because doctors' offices would have been overrun with people saying, I believe I've developed.
I've got 3.
I know you do. For a reason. It's like the same reason I have the old ICD-9. It's like, why? Well, yeah. Yeah,
I've
and
got a
it's
Merck manual. I've got all kinds of
I haven't seen the ICD-10, but I heard recently that it is a fucking nightmare because they just multiplied the V codes and all these other things that are just absolutely ridiculous. Those extra things that really aren't diagnoses.
Yes.
But anyhow, getting back to doctor's offices would have been swamped by people with imaginary illnesses. And
well, that's an interesting thing. I actually, I see if you think the same thing. I think that demand for medical services is effectively infinite.
Yeah.
If you truly have free medical care, that will never work because the demand will be infinite. I think there will be. I think there is. Let's see. Yeah, I think there will be infinite demand.
Yeah, there is.
I think you would overwhelm any reasonable cadre of providers.
And when you do that, you're exhausting providers and you're diminishing those.
They get their morale goes down.
Well, their morale goes down and their effectiveness goes down, and they begin blowing off things in large categories, saying, "Well, that's this, that's this." Yes,
it turns into the VA.
Yeah, on steroids, because it's then writ large. I mean, the VA is terrible, but writ large, imagine what a catastrophe that would be.
Yeah, no, if people who are accustomed to actual medical care, if they had to deal with the VA, the hue and cry would be amazing. But they'd
also stop talking about socialized medicine if they had to deal with a VA for a little while. It would be very instructive for all those people that think that you can provide high
quality
care. Yeah. I mean, and you say, look at the British and say, well, but what about the British? Everything's great. They actually live a half a year longer than we do. Okay, they're not as obese as we are. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about life expectancy. We're talking about whether or not you can get an appointment with a goddamn general practitioner or ever. You can't see shrinks without waiting months. That's not quality health care.
But to the idea about people with a little bit of information thinking themselves experts, that is one aspect. That's one problem, that having all this information, which formerly was only available to people like doctors and lawyers and the like, now available to anybody. I mean, I can go and do the same legal research that a lawyer can. I mean, within reason. There's some stuff you got to subscribe to really do it like they do. But I can go look at the same case law, look at the same legislated law, and the same cases that any lawyer can from the comfort of my laptop. I mean, you can
get a copy of last year's bar exam and take it yourself eventually.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like Kim Kardashian is doing, basically continually taking the baby bar in California until she finally passed the baby bar. And once you pass the baby bar, that's very much like the California bar. I've known not a lot of people, 3 or 4 people who've gone through that. And once you pass the baby bar, you always pass the big bar. You almost always pass the big bar.
That's just VP Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, no kidding.
You can have Kamala as president, Kim Kardashian as vice president.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, being a lawyer is not a requirement for holding high office, but
or even being on the Supreme Court.
Some people seem to think it is. Yeah, it used to be based on judgment.
Yeah.
That's why we use the word judge.
I think it'd be interesting to put Trump on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I think that'd be fascinating. Talk about
because he could have some hotshot. He could have some hotshot clerks writing all his decisions.
Yeah, but not to upset anybody, but oral arguments are going to be a riot because you talk about Dunning-Kruger. That guy's weaponized Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah.
Look at the staff that he had around him, like Hope Hicks and all these people. Can you imagine? His law clerks. It would look like a Robert Palmer video by the time he got done.
Yes, it would.
They just come out. It's time for the chicas. Not chicas. They would just show up.
Yeah, and I can just see him looking at the Solicitor General. You're fired. It's not it. And the thing is by my saying that Trump is weaponized Dunning-Kruger. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, if that hurts your feelings, but it's true. That is not to say that the people who are in charge now are not even more terrifyingly prone to that syndrome. Anthony Blinken comes to mind. Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, just when I think we've kind of hit rock bottom with these people.
I've got a better one. And you're going to love it. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Robert Reich.
Oh, shit, of course. Well, that demented gnome's picture is next to Dunning-Kruger. It should be in Wikipedia. Great sufferers of Dunning-Kruger, Robert Reich. Yeah, the economist who's not an economist. I don't know. Reich may have been right more than Paul Krugman, who actually is an economist.
No.
But no. I doubt it.
He has the economics degree. Krugman's not an economist. He's a terrorist. He is a fucking terrorist.
Yeah, I mean, he has a degree and a Nobel Prize.
And he's a terrorist.
Yeah, the man. If it's possible for me to detest someone more than I detest Robert Reich, Krugman's hovering right around the edges of that honor.
Yeah.
Reich infuriates me because he is so deliberately misleading. It's pretty spectacular. I mean, our press secretaries are paid to do that. So I don't hold the same degree of animus that I do for somebody like Reich. I was a policy advisor once upon a time, and that makes me an expert. Oh, fuck straight off. I mean, that's just, I subscribe to The Economist. That's because look, I could subscribe to physics today, and it would not make me a physician, which is actually something that I anticipate Ocasio-Cortez to say one of these days.
Do you know that Robert Reich dated Hillary Rodham?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Before she went out with Bill Clinton. True.
But they noticed the singularity was forming, so they stopped. Both of them woke up one day with cloven hooves and horizontal pupils.
Can you what a perfect couple they would make.
Oh, Jesus God.
Little 4'10" Robert Reich. And I mean, he really is 4'10". He couldn't even serve in the army. He was too short. He was NPQ for the army. Too short. Minimum height of 5 feet.
Yeah, I that is something he cannot help. It's an immutable characteristic, but I still like calling him a demented gnome.
but it defines him. The short man syndrome
Thank
so
you.
defines him. Does it?
Yes, it
don't
does.
you-
It does.
Oh my,
The strutting peacockery of the small man syndrome. But
I
that
am
picture
good
is
enough.
spectacular.
I could have been a football star.
Come back here. I'm going to gnaw your knees off. It's just
Yeah.
that it looks like he's getting ready to kiss his forehead.
It's a very Biden-esque sort of moment, except it's not a little girl and Joe.
I just like the shadow behind where he's even shorter. So you can't even. Yeah. Ooh.
Really like that.
Yeah, you could balance a pizza on top of that head. Just saying.
Yeah, but Willie Brown didn't favor
no.
that. Didn't favor that flavor, so to speak. So
he dated Kamala for a while, but he had been instructed she turned into a pizza at midnight, and
yeah.
She has such a lovely laugh. I'm sure that they had the best times together.
He kept her mouth full. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. A hush fell over the stream. But
no, I was just trying to figure out how much I could get away with in a response, and I decided nothing.
Yeah, that's why I just decided to
Yep,
there you go. We're done.
Yep. Yeah, we're done here. I think it is going to be interesting. Have you guys noticed how much Joe Biden is making tremendous verbal gaffes?
Yeah, he's and he's wearing sunglasses a lot too. I wonder why that is.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because he is being seen in his sunglasses more and more. So it's I'm wondering if the oh my God!
What are you measuring?
Can I rotate that? That's what I want to know.
You're so heightest. Oh
my.
Yeah, Reich does, though. He has the picked last for volleyball syndrome, big time.
Yes, not picked.
He was actually picked to be the volleyball.
Right. You be a judge. I don't know the rules. Well, you be a judge's helper. What do they do? Stand there. Shut up.
Really?
Wait till PE's over.
Just the look on his face. He looks like an extra in a movie about the garment district.
He looks like Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah.
He's kind of got the Tyrion thing going on.
Oh, God. This is just sad. Oh, stop it!
Yeah, here we go. There we go. Yeah. You must be this tall to serve in the cabinet.
Oh my God. Yeah, he can't get the e-ticket either.
Denied once again. Yeah, there's a lot of roller coasters he can't go on. I just realized that.
Yeah.
5 feet. Yeah,
no e-ticket for you, Bob.
Yeah. Sucks to be you, and it does suck to be you.
I want to go on the Matterhorn, screams the 60-year-old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could stand up in the ride without being decapitated, though.
That's true. Making fun of his height is almost too easy. I mean, it's his diminutive intellectual prowess that's the real issue. It's not his fault that he's 4'10".
No, that isn't a mutable characteristic.
He read his own press notices from being a Rhodes Scholar and going to Yale Law School, which that's impressive stuff. It does not make you an economist. And I really do think that Reich is Dunning-Kruger in action. That's a guy, he really does think he understands economics. And I've heard him just blow it on some fundamental principles of economics to make me think he does not have a good fundamental grasp of the fundamentals of economics.
Yeah, William Lane Craig has a better grasp of cosmology than Robert Reich does of
of economics. Fair enough. Well said.
Well, I'd actually say that William Jefferson Clinton, seen in the picture above, probably has a better understanding than
he listened to economists who had who were scared shitless about the deficit, and he had the good sense to do that. That's what Clinton did.
Well, I mean,
he's no student of economics.
Calling balls and strikes, though, Clinton was good at listening.
Yes, he was. And absolutely, is his strength, one of his strengths.
The whole notion of, and it's why he's considered so charming, because people have said when they meet him, it's as if they are the only person in the room
on earth.
Yeah, he is very, very good at paying very careful attention to whomever he's speaking, with whom he is speaking. There you go.
Toy boat.
Fuck yeah. Freundleben. He also processes information well. Clinton does. He's a smart man.
He's a smart motherfucker.
Yeah, he is a smart man, and anybody who thinks he's a dope was sorely misunderestimating him. I believe that Hillary is probably more cunning, but I'm not sure. I know she's not as smart, merely because she's too driven by unfortunately things that will drive women, which are vengeance, petty concerns. She wants to crush her political enemies. Bill tried to manipulate his political enemies into seeing a middle ground. And that whole triangulation thing worked.
That third wave was...
it worked.
Right things.
It really worked. He listened, and he didn't participate in the "they are evil" rhetoric against his opponents. He'd seen how effective Reagan was at communicating. Clinton's problem is he's like a gas bag. Very long-winded, very articulate, just very long-winded.
So the long-windedness was more for him playing for time or to wear down his opponent. Like, he's just, I can do this all day. He could just do that.
His 1984 convention speech at the Democratic Convention, was it 84? 88. The 88 speech he gave was a very long speech. I listened to the whole thing. And despite its length, I was quite impressed by him. And so I wasn't surprised when this fellow from Hope became their candidate in 92. Not the least bit surprised.
Well, if we're going to judge Bill Clinton, we need to adjust for difficulty. And honestly, if you're going to be president of the United States, if you want to have a real easy time of it, go 1992 to 2000.
You are not wrong.
That is the calmest seas you could hope to sail in relative to just about every other thing. You're coming out of, you have stagflation.
Yep.
Reagan basically took the defibrillator to the economy and then juiced it with some deficit spending. Right. So, but you're going into the beginning of the big restructuring of things for the internet. So there's all these things that are happening with technology and finance and the internet that are just supercharging the economy. And in an environment like that, and even in terms of foreign stuff, he had it pretty easy.
Yeah.
So he's between Gulf War I and Gulf War II.
Even George H.W. Bush couldn't fuck Reagan stuff up enough to leave Clinton a mess.
Yeah, it was just about the easiest time to be Bubba. You know, he had a whole group of shiny new interns and left all of his lawsuits behind him because it's kind of hard to sue a sitting president.
And the chickens that were utterly ignored during his administration because things were going so well came home to roost in the 2000s.
Yeah. So, you know, it was pre 9/11, pre this, pre that.
With plenty of warning throughout his entire 2 terms.
Yeah, but basically he was riding out the tail of a nice big financial boom that got extended by all of the technological change that started right there. It was a great time to be president of the United States. If you compare that to what Reagan inherited, oh my God!
What Reagan inherited was utter.
It was. It's basically going to be what whoever replaces Biden's going to inherit. It's going to be bad. It's funny how the cost of energy seems to be this thing that screws everything up that it touches when it goes up.
Isn't that the strangest thing when you're looking at a country our size, that energy costs could have such an impact on the cost of goods?
Yeah. And please don't tell me that they didn't deliberately drive the price of energy up. They did. They drove the price of energy up on purpose. They did it on purpose because they wanted people to use less carbon. And all they've managed to do is screw up the world energy market to the point where you've got countries like Germany, they're going back to burning coal. And Germany's not the only one.
They won't be because of absolute desperation this winter. There's going to be a lot of trouble in Europe.
What percentage of Europe's gas comes from Russia? Either of you know? Because I know.
What is it?
40%. 40%. And they are going to get zero gas from Russia. Zero. Null set, void. All the things that mean zero. That's how much gas they're getting.
Well, they should have built those nuclear power plants when the French told them to, but they didn't.
Right now. Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to. I don't want people harmed, but there's a lot of nanny boo boo wrapped up in this, and a lot of fucking hypocrisy, because we're going to go all electric. We're going to do that. That's really great in the boom times when you're flying to your conferences to discuss going all electric.
How dare you?
Yeah. But you're going to have a carbon credit score. Well, you first.
That's
I'd love to see what your carbon credit score is. Oh, but you don't understand. People like us, we're part of the solution. We're not part of the problem.
No,
you people are the problem. You people have this. You know, we need to be exempt from these policies so we can help you save yourselves from yourselves.
Let's talk about the sacrifices you need to make to help me.
Yeah, it's the Bill Gates model of how one speaks to the plebs, and Leo DiCaprio, and how dare you, and all of the rest of that crowd. I mean, Bill Gates, I find it amazing that he actually thinks, and it's because people do, which is a shame. And you should stop if you take the man seriously on anything other than how to get when the getting's good with the money. Why they think he knows things about stuff he knows nothing about, I'll never understand.
He made all that money. He must know something.
I mean,
he's got to know something. He made all that money.
But yes, right.
So and Microsoft and the Windows thing. You know, we got the money.
That's it. And, you know, winning the lottery suddenly raises your IQ by 40 points. It doesn't. Money doesn't have shit to do with this. There are a lot of stupid rich people.
Can make you a lot cuter.
Yes, it can. And it make doctors a lot richer, making you a lot cuter.
Yeah.
Yeah. That old guy who hooked up with Anna Nicole Smith, he died pretty happy, I think.
Hey, he
said he was smiling.
Yeah. He got his money's worth. It's like, and when he's gone, it's like, just let my kids that I disowned fight it out with her. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh God, these dysfunctional people. But
he's got to eat too.
Yeah, of course they do. And it's because of scum fucks like that. Anna Nicole Smith was just a messed up little Maryland rerun.
Well, you know,
I hate to say it.
I know, but some of the stuff that we were talking about a moment ago about the energy policy.
Yeah.
How is it, okay, big question. How is it that it's so obvious to three random people who just happen to get together to do an internet talk show thing? How is it so obvious to us that this was the thing that was going to happen? And obvious to Donald Trump. Obvious to him. Not like he didn't say, you guys are going to regret this. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Trump's such an idiot. He has this failed steak company and vodka. Don't listen to him. He's just Trump University. Ha ha. So funny. It's he was right. 100% right. He was 100% right about many, many things involving foreign politics. And the thing you need to, well, you don't have to do anything, but I would suggest that people listening to the show, the difference between rich people and regular people when it comes to this stuff isn't that their IQ goes up by 40 points. It's that they have access to analysis that you don't have access to. They have access to sources of information that you don't have access to. A lot of stuff that's in the internet domain is, a lot of things aren't on the internet. They just aren't, or they're behind paywalls. And people think that they go to the Google machine and the sum total of the world's knowledge is at their disposal, and it is not.
No,
it is very much a two-tiered society, because people who pay real money for analysis get daily and weekly things, kind of like a presidential daily briefing, that has information that includes stuff like they have sources that give them information before it's published. So they know what's going on in more detail than the rest of us do, and sooner than the rest of us do.
It's access to information and access to connections.
But in spite of that,
people with the information.
But the problem, the thing that mystifies me is that somehow in this environment, you would think that this would mean we would have a fantastic government, and we don't. We have these neocon nitwits who get in and just do crazy things because they've convinced themselves that they know better than the rest of us.
Oh my God. I was talking to somebody the other day. This is the thing that's terrifying me. And I'm not encouraging people to not vote or anything like that. My God, no, please do. But I've told so many people, because recently somebody said to me, well, I'm a Democrat. And I said, that's nice. I can't be one. And I said, and I also can't be a Republican. Now, I a whole lot more can't be a Democrat than I can't be a Republican. That's where the balance
with more Republican.
That's where the balance shifts. Yeah, I mean, I gave up on the Democrats with the Bork hearings, okay?
So you're kind of a conservatarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
With ever-increasing libertarian tendencies.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in open borders. I don't believe in a whole lot of the other debating society bullshit that the libertarians like to dig down in the weeds and fight about.
Serious libertarians don't believe in that. People who really understand what the needs for liberty are in this country, and what the potential for crafting a society around the sacredness of personal liberties. It doesn't shake out well with respect to the right and the left, because it is you hear crazy people, and I don't know why libertarians just put crazy people up for office, but they do, and I hate this about them, but their program, their stated goals and purposes,
their platform,
always their platform, as it were. Not that they always have one, but their platform, such as it is always the best of the parties. The people they put up are the worst, and they're crazy people who most libertarians don't want open borders. That's crazy talk.
Well, it's like opening your own home.
Most libertarians don't want private ownership of roads. That's the other thing that comes. People
Right.
come after us. What about market failures? Well, the market failures be handled. You've got to have a government. You're going to have laws. You're going to have to have all the things that allow civil society to operate in.
The anarchists the anarcho-capitalists, which are utterly hilarious children, have exercised far too much influence in libertarian circles. Because
they have in the past. I think that's starting to.
Well, I would like it to, but I swear to God, me and my, I'm totally non-interventionist, man. They're absolutists. And it is like, I don't want to deal with absolutists. Some of them really are. Under no circumstances should we ever go to war, man. You know what I'm talking about. And those are the whack jobs that seem to end up running for local office or something, and you have to listen to them and go, "Oh, good God, could you please? You don't have a foot in reality at all." And those are the people that I really do want to beat with John Stuart Mill. If the libertarians could have a T-shirt that said "Makes John Stuart Mill great again," it would be a very good idea, because then it might make some people fucking read John Stuart Mill.
I was just going to say the most important thing is for them to read it
and not strain at the gnat of utilitarianism, please.
Yeah.
And it's
it's interesting. I'm watching chat too. I'm seeing Assassin talking about. He said, "Why is everyone assuming this was not on purpose?"
Because we have a tendency, I think, most people do, to just not want to believe in evil.
Yeah.
That weaponized, like Harry said, of course this was deliberate.
I tend to think it's not an overarching conspiracy, but there are factions in there who want to do this, and they're
accelerationists. Yeah,
they're occasionally effective, right? As you say, in getting something done in one of these areas that
Europe has them. We have them.
Europe is filled with them.
And they are a cabal. And that cabal,
I think they may actually constitute a majority in Scotland.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is like the World Economic Forum, some of the Bilderberg crowd. These guys, they think they're God. Ooh, the self-appointed priesthood.
They're the runners of the world, the ones who would run the world.
And they don't. They don't care. It is Rome versus the hinterlands. And one of the things I would encourage those of us who oppose them is to not make that big of a deal of the whole conspiracy thing, because then it starts getting into the cosmic pizza kind of territory, if you know what I mean. People begin to sound a little whack, because it's also inviting in all the royal family's really dead, and those are just doppelgangers,
lizard doppelgangers.
Yeah, and next thing you know, somebody's citing maritime law, No, but you end up with
I'm traveling.
I'm traveling.
I'm not driving. I'm traveling.
You don't need a conspiracy. I mean, it's actually much simpler than that, and I can appeal to.
Yeah.
I can appeal to your historical knowledge, Prospero. Lysenkoism. All you need is one person with a charismatic aura about them, and a vision of utopia, who's got the ear of the person in charge, and then they will tell everybody, "This is the line you're going to toe," and then that woman who used to be governor of Michigan, who's Granholm. Granholm just goes, okay, she just salutes and puts in her time and says stupid things that she can't possibly believe are true.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, was it Sri Lanka that had the big implosion? They just decided, well, if weaning ourselves off of synthetic fertilizers over 10 years is a good idea, then doing it all at once, just putting out an edict and saying we're not going to buy any more synthetic fertilizer, that's a better idea, because that's like 10 times better than doing it over 10 years.
They dropped a 50 megaton Lysenko bomb on their own country.
Right, and so now there's people that are starving there. It only and this was because the president listened to one person.
Yep.
And one person in India who was charismatic and had an idea and convinced this guy that, oh, well, you're having financial problems. Well, we can't afford fertilizer. Well, why don't we just do this? This sounds like a great idea.
Greta Not only will it to be strong, though.
Yeah, well, it wasn't Greta this time. It was, Indian Greta. But anyway, I forget the name of this person. It only takes one person. It doesn't take a conspiracy. I think that somebody gave Biden, somebody or somebody's extremely bad advice. And it ended up working far too well, because they tried doing it at the same time as all this other stuff was happening elsewhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not they viewed us as being in a weak position and they took advantage of the things we'd already put in motion, or it's happenstance, I don't know. But it's a perfect storm.
Opportunism. Opportunism will arise in that case. I mean, we pissed off the Saudis, and the Saudis are laughing at us now.
Yeah. First day in office, he cancels an oil pipeline. You cannot say that you're like the energy president. You just can't.
Because you've got to have something to run all those electric vehicles, my friends. And hamsters will be at a premium soon enough.
They're delicious. I like the dark meat.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Peru.
Welcome to Venezuela. Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but Peru, they've raised guinea pigs for food for years. Yeah. It's a...
Yeah, Venezuela is where we're going to start getting our oil, so you better be nice, Skep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the oil that you're going to get from Venezuela, by the way, is shite.
It's free range. Crude. It's organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
polyamorous and polyunsaturated.
It's sour crude.
Yeah, the guys in Houston are going to have a lot of fun cleaning that shit up.
They're going to make money like
well, of course they'll make money. Invest in refinery stock, folks.
Yep.
But you're not receiving financial advice here on Minions of the Zoo. But keep an eye on refineries. I don't know what I was going to say. I always like, you say Lysenko and my brain goes to gunk. But look, Hitler.
So did his.
Hitler came up, the whole notion of Aryan supremacy is risible on its face, and everything about the whole, but charisma, persuasion can talk people. Sanguine's made this point, that it's not a matter of good people doing nothing, and that allows evil to survive and thrive, but it's that they can be co-opted. They can be convinced it's for the best with all the best intentions. They don't become evil. They just simply become alibis for evil and accessories after the fact. I promise you, at the height of the panic of 2020, trying to phrase this carefully, to be saved from the great terror of that year, you would have found a large number of millennials that would have gladly put Jews on boxcars if it would have saved them from the terror.
Oh, are you kidding?
There was
absolutely would.
Yeah,
they absolutely would.
There was an exercise that played out in front of us of engendering panic ginning up fear and offering the lifeline. And the number of people that obediently fell into line was very disillusioning to me. Extremely disillusioning to me. It's that critical thinking thing again. Now, the fact that you know this.
What if they're just following orders?
Yeah, right. That's how that happens.
Yeah.
That's what Sanguine has always been trying to say. When it is evil, can prevail when good men stand by and do nothing. No. You've co-opted those good men. And you can do it. There are many, many motivators. And fear is an incredible motivator. Now, the three of us know these things. We saw these things. We commented on them to the extent that we could at the time. But loads and loads of other people were not aware that they were being played like cheap tin whistles. They still aren't aware they're being played like cheap tin whistles. That's because they're not thinking critically. You hobble a generation or two in an education environment run by the federal government that does not stress achieving critical thinking as part of the goal of education. This is what you get. You get an obedient group of cowed Dunning-Kruger people. And we've got them by the boatload. That ship can be turned around because not everybody out here suffers from it. There are plenty of people who are aware, but the problem is they still aren't very discerning because they're buying any conspiracy hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Distrust in public institutions is one thing. Never believing anybody's telling you the truth about anything is another. And we're seeing that too. They are all out to get us.
Yeah.
So
if you look, I think most people think critical thinking has to do with taking in, factual things to take in.
No, it's analysis and synthesis.
Analysis, but taking into account context of facts and understanding the principles by which the different parts of any problem interact. It's
observation,
and then based on that, you maybe make a set of arguments that inform your how you feel about something, and, as a result of that critical thinking.
And we can always justify after the fact with our feelings. That's what we all do. I mean, we all engage in cognitive dissonance at some point. I think it's probably a bit of a thing that keeps us sane. It's just when it becomes our stock and trade that we look like Democrats.
Yeah.
And a fair few Republicans. Sadly.
It's interesting. Some of the definitions of critical thinking I read are they say things like it's self-directed, self-disciplined, self-monitored, and self-corrective thinking. And I'm not sure that that's always true. I think you cannot be completely inward directed.
No.
And have critical thinking. I think you always have to involve others.
And I'm using it taxonomically.
Yeah.
Probably
better explain what you mean.
Well, we've discussed this. A fellow named Bloom has a taxonomy of learning, education. Keep chasing after a stampeding elephant. But he doesn't use the term critical thinking. It's after the stampeding elephant is analysis, synthesis, evaluation. And it's the evaluative capabilities that you really want people to achieve, which is what I consider to be critical thinking. You want them to be able to evaluate options, to be able to
What are the enemies
weigh
of critical thinking?
fear. It's very blinding.
That's true. What I
Conformity
really meant was in terms of not generic things that are obviously
Evolution.
problems for critical thinking.
Yeah.
I think like egocentrism, the egocentric nature of an individual.
Evolution, though, Harry. That's really kind of depressing that you said.
Human beings are not well equipped for modern life in some ways. We have a lot of time we've evolved to survive certain types of things, or we wouldn't be here. And that skill set isn't well suited to modern life in many circumstances.
Correct.
So that's what I mean.
Psychologically, in particular, I think.
Well, like, for instance, there's a lot of ways you can sort of influence somebody, because the way you guys are talking about critical thinking, it gets back into that ethos, pathos, logos thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And a lot of decision making that people make is really more game theory than logic. And so it's a combination of sort of built-in evolutionary heuristics, what personally has worked for you in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if it's logical. If you've basically been bitten by something a couple times, you become averse to it. Yeah, but you have to make decisions. It's important to make judgments, and they often have to be swift and based on incomplete information.
Right.
So when I say evolution, you go with your gut. And a lot of times, much like how pre-flop aggression is generally beneficial in Texas Hold'em, making quick decisions is usually better than inaction overall. Even if those decisions are frequently wrong, a lot of times it's better to do something on the assumption that there's a lion in the grass.
But if you've been taught to evaluate to a certain extent, I mean...
Yeah, there's tools that you can use.
In school, I mean, you can be taught to evaluate. You can learn to evaluate arguments. You can learn to evaluate... and it's... Part of it is just the general learning process sharpens your ability to do that. But if you can evaluate when you make the error on that
not with everybody.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah, look at Robert Reich.
But what I'm saying, and some people are deliberately though ignoring what they know.
Mm-hmm.
But the what I'm getting at, Harry, is when you make the gut decision and it's wrong, if people have demonstrated some capability for analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, then they're able to assess. That becomes part of the gut, so that you don't make that same kind of error again.
Okay, I'm going to black pill the hell out of you.
I know you're going to really fuck up.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you something that you can counter. So, so little kids go to school and they soak up information. Now, 80% of the people that are going to go in to take this class in critical thinking, right? What you're doing is you're handing them a tool. Now, they don't necessarily understand every single logical structure behind critical thinking. I mean, you've laid out the case for it perfectly well. But what you're giving them at the highest level is a framework for solving problems, a framework for doing analysis. And they will take this framework and they will apply it. Now, the people that are evil that we don't like have their own framework. And it might be something different. It might be critical theory. So if you're going to hand somebody, a tool, you could hand them traditional critical thinking, or you could hand them critical theory. They both got critical in there, so they're practically the same thing. So once you have control
followed by TH.
Yeah, once you have control of academia and the that institution, once you say, well, the solution to this problem is to teach them how to use a particular tool, getting to the point where where the correct tool gets taught is actually very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not wrong. It's just that realistically speaking, they have
subverted it.
They have academia by the short and curlies, and they're just twisting. They're not going to let go. They're not going to give up without a fight. If you give them the ability to say, we're going to teach you how to think, they're going to use that power against us. The same people that we want to give the power to fix the problem are the same people that created the problem. And they will use that power. They will use that power to make the problem worse rather than better.
No, I don't want those same people involved in anything. You know my position on the Department of Education. If I could effectively dismantle the federal education system and the state education machines, if I could Thanos them without Thanosing the people involved in them. So I'm not suggesting that I do anything terroristy. Just make it stop, make it go away. And we go back to locally controlled education.
Yeah. And you would choose to send your kids to a school that didn't try to indoctrinate them in weird sorts of ways. So
yeah. And if I found out a teacher belonged to the National Teachers, one of the National Teachers Union, the NEA or the ATF, I'd be like, no, my kid's not taking any classes from you.
Well, parents do the best they can, right? So if you're woke parents, they're going to send their kid to the woke school where they're going to be taught critical theory. And if
they're not going to be taught critical theory, critical theory is the tool for teaching them.
No, the private school. Why wouldn't they be taught critical theory? Why wouldn't they take a literature class where they spout postmodern bullshit about it doesn't matter what the author thinks the intended to say, it's what it means to us in a modern context.
Oh, yeah.
The author's intentions are meaningless. And then so we just teach them about literature in quotes, and it's just crap.
Yeah, I mean, some of the early postmodernists had it right that our modern society was going to fragment our brains, and it did.
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is
failing to even be able to define terms to one another. Not the three of us, but
what if school is not the right tool for the job? Is what I'm saying. You know, what if school has been captured, and what if it's not fit for purpose? Is there some other way that we can use this information that we talked about at the beginning of the show? All the stuff that's available on the internet. Is there some way that we could virally or organically do an end run around the schools to fix both children and adults? You know, how do things get bad enough that we can basically capture the hearts and minds of people without using the schools as the mechanism? Because I don't think that's going to work right now. Once we fix everything, then we can teach critical thinking as part of the standard curriculum when they go back and read the classics.
Yeah, when we go back actually to the 3 R's, jokingly, but if I consider the capability of my grandfather, who had a rudimentary education, and was born in 1895, so it was before a whole lot of modern hoo-ha got spread around, and but he grasped concepts in such a manner, and I mean, he could read. He was enumerate.
That's a great word, by the way.
I mean, but he knew how to do his figures, and he knew how to do his reading.
Yep.
And he also could evaluate things, and he could analyze things. He could fix damn near anything. Now things were simpler to fix then, but he did not lack in having gained a lot from education, the minimal education he had. Now we got people with 16 years under their belt who can't fucking cross the street without breaking down into tears.
You can't even spell your name right on a coffee cup.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's
a venti. There's plenty of room to write on it. So.
It's pretty tragic.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me I'd be doing this back in gender studies.
They didn't tell me I'd be writing large in Italian.
Yeah.
you know, I mean, if I'd known I had to study a foreign language, it's what these people are good at is vocal fry. And
vocal fry
and having public tantrums constantly. I mean, just the education system is probably going to end up being choked by the idiots that they have actually produced. I mean, they may expire under their own weight, Harry.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the hurry up and fail California. You really need to hurry up and fail so we can get busy fixing this, because they're even having trouble finding out of the product that they have created people who are capable of sustaining it. They can't seem to sustain the beast very well.
Who is they? Who are you talking about?
The education machine. Because, look at the teachers are dumber than dumb. And then they were all having nervous breakdowns because they might be exposed to the sadness of 2020. And
So did I tell you that I once I must have told you the story that I once, when I was, the way I made money when I was a kid is I would tutor people. So in junior high school and high school, I was tutoring everything from elementary through college. And one time when I think I was in 8th grade, I tutored a guy who was studying for his teacher's certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not smart. This was not a smart dude.
Yeah.
It was a real wake up for me. I was sitting here thinking, you're going to be able to get a teacher's certificate with what you've learned in school and cramming for this test? We are in serious trouble.
When I took the NTEs, I knew we were all hosed. I didn't want to admit that to myself at 26 years of age, that we were fucked, because I had a lot of life ahead of me. And
it's hard to just consume black pills by the bowl like breakfast cereal. But I have a question for you, because we're talking about the school and critical thinking, because I generally agree with almost everything you're saying. I'm just not sure what the correct approach is. But I will say this, that if we look at these frameworks for problem solving and analysis as tools, how do you convince your neighbor that his lawnmower is no good? Right, Skep?
Yeah.
How do you so he's got the lawnmower that he bought at on sale, that's all Chinese and there's no instructions, but he's real pleased because he got a good deal. And you've got like a good riding lawnmower. It's got like 2 cup holders. It's really awesome. And how do you convince anybody that the tool that they're using is wrong? And the only way you can do it is by basically being happier and more successful than they are. And what will accelerate this process is adversity. Now, I don't want people to suffer. That's the last thing in the world. But I think a expensive / incredibly cold winter is going to cause an awful lot of people to assess the value of the people in charge. Because you have failed and I'm cold, and all I can think about is how I don't want to be cold and you suck.
Well, that
Harry, just let me take your analogy just one step further. Then the next thing is that they notice you having a better life, having more fun than they do, mowing a better lawn looking better, going. And so he goes to the police and says that you have an unfair advantage and you have to stop using the lawnmower that's cutting your lawn so well and doing so wonderfully, and use the same kind of mower that he's using.
That's critical.
That's critical thinking.
That's critical theory.
Critical theory. I mean, yeah.
It ain't critical thinking.
That's not critical thinking. No.
I'll be right back.
So, but you see what I'm saying, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It really truly is. And what a road the left and the race hustling creatures of that side have created for us, and it's a world of resentment, separation, of people siloed into their own little hate buckets, and little ethnic and or nationalist or sexual preference based ghettoization, basically. I hate to see that. I want to see people getting together and enjoying one another, in doing good things, living well together, having a good life. Everything that the left does with respect to that balkanization just seems like it's a bad idea for somebody who wants to achieve those goals.
It was very easy for me to find a article about how lawns are racist.
Lawns are symbols of racism and bad for global warming. Well, of course they are. Why?
Of course they are.
Warming? Because we use those internal combustion machines to cut them, and the symbols of racism, because I guess I don't know why. I'm sure they have some good reason why it's a symbol of racism.
Yeah, best not to think about it too much. But I can tell you that. Well, when Prospero gets back, I'll tell you a little something about a thing that I see happening in California. But I'll have to put a pin in that for a moment. I don't want to be black-pilled all the time. It's not my idea of a good time. I'd rather be happy-go-lucky, but I can barely sit down after doing taxes yesterday. It was rough.
Oh, man.
So I will tell you this, that at the end of, I invested a bunch of money in my house on energy stuff. So I have a bunch of green credits coming. So I fill out my taxes, and at the end of it, because I was using TurboTax, at the end of it, it gives you your audit risk. And so after I do all of this stuff, spend all this money and do all this work and fill out my taxes, at the end of it all, as I'm about to hit send to e-file this, it says that you have an increased risk of being audited because you have energy credits on your return. It's like, oh yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic, because that's what I want to do. If you want to encourage people not to be green, why don't you not audit the crap out of them? It's like if they just sent me a notice and said, hey, can you send us a copy of the receipt for this stuff that you claimed on your return? Yeah, I could do that. But they're not going to do that. They're just going to call you into an audit and then sodomize you. That's what's going to happen with the 86,000 new agents. Because they're going to come after people like me.
That you're exactly right, and you are exactly the right size for them to come after Harry. You are
I'm just the right size.
Little plum to just pick off the tree.
Yeah, and he has enough money to make it worth our while, but not enough money that he basically will laugh at us as he hires people to tie us up,
make us go around. Yeah, exactly. So that's I hated to see that. I got so angry when I saw that he'd hired 100,000 people to take money that they have no right to take from us in the first place. God damn it, that makes me mad. That just makes me absolutely fucking crazy. The income tax is theft. Say it with me, boys and girls.
Taxation is theft.
Taxation is, well, not all taxation is theft. Some of it can be a community agreed upon way of raising revenue. Yeah. Which is why we have had...
The only good tax is a thumb tax.
Yeah, by and large, but we ran out of government leases to sell, rent, whatever, and patents.
Well, anyway, you would put a pen in something, waiting.
Yeah, well, I wanted to wait till Prospero got back. So, I mean, California is nowhere near hitting rock bottom yet. That's unfortunately not the news I'm going to give you.
Yeah, no.
But I will tell you that I'm starting to see increasing signs of
fragmentation within the faithful.
No. What I'm seeing is like the previous generation of Democrats starting to come out and do what Bill Clinton did Barack Obama did recently, and say, what do you people think you're doing? This woke
Yeah.
stuff is going to basically just destroy you. And I'm seeing more and more sort of emeritus Democrats coming out and going, okay, enough of this crap.
It's got to
Dad
be
says it's
bad.
okay. Dad says it's okay not to be crazy.
It's got to be okay. It's got to be bad. It's not okay. It's got to be bad. When they get Barack Obama to come out and say something like that.
Yeah, well, Barack Obama, he's it's reached the point where it's really pretty damn obvious. Kind of like I've said that, what is it, the guy with the Matt Walsh. When you've got an issue that's so obvious and so simple that even Matt Walsh can look like the smart guy in the room, you've arrived at Stupid Town.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with a lot of political stuff now. It's like
but
Barry decided he had to say something.
Is one of the people who was a beneficiary and architect of the prevalence of belief that critical theory is necessary, has realized that in application it doesn't work. He's also achieved certain heights of personal wealth that makes the word equity make him twitch, I believe. He got his, now fuck the rest of you. Not to be unkind, but I never see anything that Barack Obama says or does without a jaundiced eye.
Well, there's two things about Barack Obama's statement. Thing one is he's concerned with
the future of the party.
People in history looking back and saying that his presidency laid the foundation for the woke movement in this thing. So he doesn't want people to look back in the history books 50 years from now talking about the implosion of the left.
Speaking of tracing it to him as being
the seed that basically caused it. That's thing one. Thing two is he is potentially looking at what might happen with friends of his or family of his who might want to try to be there to pick up the pieces after it all goes to crap. So he's worried about his legacy, and he's also worried about will he and his friends be in a position to benefit from the disaster that's about to happen.
Yeah, and it's not looking like it because they belong to the a la Lanterne division.
Well, now's the time to change. Bill Maher started it.
Not the ones shouting it, but the ones on the receiving end. Bill Maher is not a stupid man.
He's kind of a bellwether.
He never has been.
No.
I'm still ashamed at how people responded to what he said after 9/11. That was unnecessary overreaction. It wasn't the smartest thing for him to say, but don't kill the messenger when irony slaps you in the face.
Should it be said? Should it be said by me? Should it be said by me now? That's the three questions you should always ask yourself.
Right. And
if you're somebody like Bill Maher and us to a lesser degree.
But to a certain extent, it used to be sacrosanct that from the realm of comedy, anything was permissible. And that the right got outraged. And I am so furious with the right that loves all the free speech when they're bitching about getting banned from Twitter. But then all of a sudden somebody says something that they find uncomfortable or they dislike it, and then they get all up in arms and get all Tipper Gore pinch-faced. Ban that. Put a warning on it. Either you do or you don't. Well,
not all of them are hypocrites.
Just
some of them are.
Some of them are. Not all of them are. Yeah. And look,
I hate the hypocrites too.
Shit pisses me off. I've said things in the heat of a moment, like that person should be made to shut up, that kind of thing. And I know full well all that is an emotive response. And then I say, sorry, no, I didn't mean that. Let them run their goddamn mouth. I find the Alex Jones verdict particularly aggravating because of my belief in free speech. But it is, if you hold the wrong opinions, you are going to be held to a different set of standards.
That's the truth. It'd be
and
interesting to see if that award gets reduced. It's
it's
obviously excessive.
but it's the point is, if you cannot kill the man for hurting your feelings, beggaring him is the next best thing. And trust me, I think Mr. Jones was excessive in his rhetoric, the same way I think Westboro Baptist Church is excessive in their rhetoric.
Should either of them be stripped?
Absolutely not.
Goods
Absolutely
because
not.
they're assholes.
If you don't have better ideas with which to fight their loathsome verbiage, that's your fault. That's your problem. Alex Jones was a niche community of listeners. Alex Jones wasn't Bill Maher. Alex Jones, at the time he made these utterances, wasn't Rush Limbaugh. He didn't have the kind of platform that people seem to be acting like they think he did. Matter of fact, the fact that he said unwise things is why he became better known.
He's just a humble water filter and vitamin salesman.
Well, he's by no means that. But, you know, we all tend to think that this world of YouTube listeners or Twitter users is the whole world. And it's not. It's not a community, but that's the term they use. It's a group of people, a good-sized group of people, but not the majority of people. A lot of people until this trial didn't have any idea that Alex Jones had said any such thing.
That's the truth. You know, that it's surprising how many people across the country don't even know who Alex Jones is.
Right. So this impact that he had was because people in the press heard it and put it on blast. If you want to blame somebody for gutting you over and over again, if you lost your child at Sandy Hook, blame the people that kept running up to you and telling you that Alex Jones said that. Because they weren't being helpful.
Yeah.
They were being incendiary. His words were already loaded, but they put powder in that charge.
Yeah.
I don't blame any of them. I mean, the press does what the press does. They have always done what they've done. They're obnoxious or they're good, one or the other, sometimes both at the same time. But what Alex Jones said did not do anything other than cause hurt feelings. And I've always had a problem with emotional distress being a huge motivator in any form of lawsuit.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is far, far too qualitative.
Well, suing because you got your feelings hurt. I mean, yes, you can sue for anything. You can sue.
It's retarded.
You don't like the breeze in the room, but you know, issuing a law,
childish.
Starting law school. Yeah, exactly.
It's childish. Unfortunately, it is.
It's our litigious society, though, encourages that. That's the way. That's the way we get even. That's the great thing that lawyers do is they.
I have a hot take for you, Skep.
Vengeance.
What's that?
Well, I was thinking about this very topic earlier today because it's hard not to think about the injustice of the Dr. Evil-sized settlement. Oh wait, no, he would only ask for $1 million. But it's like evil. You know, this is like the kind of ransom money that somebody with a weapon of mass destruction would ask for.
A Bond villain.
Yeah, I mean, this would basically be like, you know, I have a 10 kiloton nuke in Philadelphia kind of
Right.
ransom money kind of
Yeah,
territory.
I need $1 billion.
It's just an example, Susan. Just calm down. Okay. So part of the Alex Jones thing is, of course, they were pissed off, right? And
Yep.
I've already talked about how I don't think that while they were grieving about their kid, that anything Alex Jones did was really all that high on their radar compared to the insane grief that they were suffering. And
Correct.
there were some people that were massively inconvenienced by some whack jobs who listened to Alex Jones. Okay. But that's kind of on the whack jobs, not on him.
Yeah.
But if you want to argue incitement and that they should get a lovely gift, fine. Not $1 billion, but that's fine. Setting all that aside, a big part of this verdict, of the argument that they made in court, was that Alex Jones profited from the suffering of those dead kids and those families. That he profited from this stuff. This is the argument that they made.
The ill-gotten gains.
So so they're saying he still to this day is making money off of your dead children.
Oh
so
my
they
God.
responded by doing this ridiculous award
That's
for damages that they came up with. But
Again-
if you think about it, again, just step back and give it the 100-foot look.
Yeah.
The parents are doing exactly that. They are using the deaths of those children
To profit.
for financial gain. And
Correct.
they're doing it in a way that far exceeds anything that our humble water filter salesman, may have achieved.
It's far more cynical.
It's
It's
far
just
more cynical.
opportunistic.
Yeah.
It's cynical and it's opportunistic.
That's the Trial Lawyers Association
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah, make
Right
money
there.
off of your dead kids. It's not going to bring them back to life, but you can find
Well, it's-
somebody who wasn't the killer to vent
Dancing
your
in
frustration
blood.
on.
Dancing in blood is a new sport. But it's a new sport. Sandy Hook, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Las
Uvalde.
Vegas, Uvalde.
Yeah. Hate Camel
Um,
made a comment. He said every news
Not New
org profited off
Braunfeld,
those
if you
kids.
know. Not New Braunfeld, if you notice, Skep.
Yeah.
Nobody danced in the blood of the victim there.
Hey, Kevin
Yes.
says every news org profited off those kids, and he is not wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and the plane that crashes makes the
Kyle
news.
points that out too.
But it was the news people that picked up on Alex Jones and put it on blast.
Mm-hmm.
It was the press reporting on Alex Jones and putting him on blast. He also said they're putting things in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay.
Turn the freaking frogs gay.
And so he doesn't understand biology well. We got
But
that.
that's why you need the water filter.
Then
anyway.
but
What the water filter does. Yes.
But the thing is
That's
he
gay.
was a fringe dude. And yes, this whole thing about crisis actors and blah, blah, that he puts forth does, through news agencies reporting on him doing it, garner him more eyeballs on his stuff. Now, whether he actually ever... I mean, I'd like to see the forensic accounting that would indicate that that is what made him make more money. I doubt that kind of
There's no accounting that will show that. There's no accounting that will show that.
Because it's qualitative, not quantitative.
You know,
This is all about qualitative
Judgments.
things. It's all about hurt feelings.
Yeah.
It's all about emotional damage. And it's all about, we think he profited from this, the ill-gotten gains. It would be easier to prove that oops, I fell off my bicycle, I like ice cream corn pups, mean dude, was money laundering in Ukraine than to prove that Alex Jones' ill-gotten gains were from Sandy Hook.
They don't actually believe that.
I know they don't.
That is
That's
a
what's-
cynical argument that they're making just to justify
Excuse.
It's
why
an
they want
emotional
the
argument
money.
on top of it. It is all predicated on emotion. None of it is predicated on any great precedent in law. It's a disgusting thing that the Trial Lawyers Association have done with the practice of law. It is disgusting to me that there aren't any judges out there that say, get the fuck out of my courtroom with this shit. But they like the notoriety. Thanks, Lancito, and all you other pricks out there that fluffed. You like
was
the
just wrong place,
fluffers.
wrong time.
Yeah, but they like the fluffers, and they play along with it. And screw you for turning your back on anything resembling ethics. Back in the day, lawyers worth their salt would have said, get the fuck out of here with this. Judges worth their salt would have said, get the fuck out of here with this. But the ABA, just like the AMA, sold their soul for the almighty dollar. And fuck them all. I mean, I can't begin to tell you what a travesty this is. I've seen some really egregious rulings, but this one is nuts.
Do you guys see Hate Camel put up?
Yep.
Yeah. That George Floyd's daughter is taking a page out of the Sandy Hook playbook and is now suing Kanye for $250 million.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, everybody's suing everybody for something.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because if they do it in the right jurisdiction in the state you live in, Harry, unfortunately, is famous for having judges with their heads so far up their ass.
I don't know if we're actually the worst. There are some other places where abusive tort stuff is even more common.
New York.
Well, I think there's New York. There's a few specific. Okay. Where is it that everybody loves to sue? Do the class action stuff, Skep? I know there's like a specific place in the U.S.
No, it's Houston.
Texas.
The court that I forget which court is headquartered down in Houston.
Yeah,
but Houston famously grants huge settlements. That's the place to go. There's a lot of rich tort lawyers who live in Houston. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
Tort reform can only get you so far. Yeah. Unfortunately. I mean, this kind of stuff should have been viewed as a nuisance suit, just like George Floyd's daughter's thing. Is it? It
should have been dismissed summarily with prejudice.
Well, there are anti-slap things that have been set up, so I mean, we're starting to see some tort reform.
Yeah, ask Mark Stein about anti-slap if you're in the district, if you're in DC.
I know it's not perfect. Yeah. I'm just saying we're starting to see some pushback.
You've got too many activist goddamn judges is the problem. I mean,
they're basically just using the law as a tool to silence people. So
yeah, they are.
I hope we're going to see more tort reform. If anything good comes out of this Alex Jones thing, it might be just another straw in the camel's back. That
everybody who's anybody is going to agree with this because it makes them feel good about themselves. There's that cast of virtue that, well, he just simply shouldn't have said it. And those people would lose their shit if somebody knocked on their door and said, you're under arrest because you simply shouldn't have said it. Because that's your next step.
Begging, not intended, Kiefer Dam.
Beggaring people, is the current remedy. But arresting, like the British are doing, like I've said, just bring back the Bill of Attainder and save us. Just dragnet everybody up and tell them that they've committed a crime because you were a student of Beria.
It's not the Alex Jones verdict that's going to cause the reform. It's the people who copycat the Alex Jones case that are going to cause the reform.
Yeah, it's going to be this bullshit.
It's going to be this kind of bullshit, like going after Ye. I don't want to dead name him.
Ye or whatever the thing fuck it is. Yeah. I'm not going to discuss what happened to him because of his utterances, but that was wrong also.
Mm-hmm.
he said stupid things. He's allowed to say stupid things. He's a human being. We're fallible. We say stupid things all the time. I've said countless stupid things. We've all apologized to somebody in our life for something stupid we've said to them. Thoughtless, cruel, whatever. But, the height of irony is that the reaction to what Kanye West said led to a great deal of unintentional humor.
I always thought the height of irony was the Eiffel Tower.
Lol. But you know what I'm saying when he basically did the full Merchant of Venice plot, and then a bank cancels him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like unforced error. Unforced error.
Well,
banker people, that's an unforced error, unless you want to perpetuate blood libel and stereotypes.
They're happy to do that too.
Well, they are.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it is unfortunate.
I don't get the motivation.
I don't
understand who thinks this is a good idea.
I don't understand the participation of the people who are being libeled in it.
Yeah. That's what
I guess it's because they consider themselves non-practicing and non-observant that it gives them permission to.
Yeah, the proverbial cultural Jew.
Yeah,
I don't make judgments about that because it's not, it's not my religion, it's not my culture. But,
I call them suicide Jews, actually.
Yeah, but yeah, suicide Jews are a thing, and
the pro-Palestinian
Jews who hate Jews,
yeah,
and Jews who hate all the other Jews, all the Jews who aren't in the same psychological insane asylum they are.
But because they're not listening to this broadcast, we can all agree that Hasidim are annoying.
I always send a link to Ariel Gold.
Well, that's fine.
She finally blocked me.
Well, but Hasidim are annoying.
I'm not in favor of parallel legal systems. I'm sorry.
No.
If you're in the U.S.,
correct.
You have to basically
take one
live
for
by
the
the
team,
same
boys
rules
and girls.
as everybody else.
Yeah,
so no Sharia courts. No.
Why not Sharia courts? Why can't you have Sharia courts?
For the same reason that you can't have the Hasidic courts.
Talmudic courts.
Talmudic courts.
Well,
sorry.
No. Not having Jewish courts is fine, but not having Arab courts, that's
no.
The
rationale, though, the legal rationale for establishing Sharia courts is the existence of Talmudic courts.
Which I said a long time ago. That was going to come back and bite them in the ass. I said, you're going to regret. Long before I met any of you fine people, I was telling people this is going to come back to bite you in the ass. There's no way this should be allowed.
Yeah, it's not. We have one legal system.
The Somalis in Minnesota are already setting up.
Yeah, I know.
Courts. And the way that they work those legally, incidentally, is that those become a form of mediation. And so the people who have the dispute agree that a third party
arbitration.
Well, it can be arbitration, but most often it's mediation, particularly with Sharia. But yeah, sometimes it can be arbitration.
And Talmudic, both of them they're quite similar in that regard.
Yeah,
that they're mediative courts, but it's too bad we have a constitution. I'm going to have to ask the brethren from Israel to take one for the team. You're just going to have to let that be addressed, that we shall have no law but that of the Constitution. Culturally, if you want to meet at the synagogue and settle some of this stuff.
And that's what they do. And that's what the Jews
it isn't more.
That's not what the Arabs will do. That's what the Jews will do.
That is exactly, and they can make
different.
They can make it a social chord. But we've already had honor killings overlooked by judges in this country. because of all cultures are beautiful or whatever the fuck. It's like sexual emergencies. Jesus, goddamn! I just can't even. I can't even. It was in New Jersey that the honor killing dad got away with it. Because there are these cultural. No, really,
It's
honest to God,
she
killing is
expected to be-
wrong.
She expected to be killed. It's all right. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah,
Okay, live and let live.
you turning your children into speed bumps is not an option.
I saw that episode of Star Trek.
Unless your last name is Sarnayev. I told you that our local DJ referred to them as Speed Bump and Flashbang. The Sarnayev brothers.
Speed Bump and Flashbang.
Yeah, Speed Bump's buried up here in Caroline County after Flashbang ran him over.
Mm-hmm.
And, Flashbang is sitting awaiting the final penalty. But I just think that's a perfect name for them, Speed Bump and Flashbang. And it was the medical examiner's judgment that it was the being run over that killed the dead one, Speed Bump. It wasn't being shot. It was being run over by his brother. Oh, irony. Or Eiffel Tower.
I didn't realize he was a Chechen.
Yeah. Chechens never do anything small, do they?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. I just didn't realize he was.
They had been to Chechnya, which is why the FSB or whatever they style themselves now, contacted the FBI. Because ever since that school hostage situation in Chechnya, the Russians watched Chechnya very, very carefully. And they didn't like the fact these boys had been traveling back and forth to Chechnya from the U.S., and they decided to do us a solid. And our FBI, being anti-Ruski and all that, we're like, yeah, we got this. Until they didn't have this. And so, of course, the reaction was to make sure that people didn't use words like pressure cooker and backpack in their emails, because fixing the problem after it's happened is always the way of the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI. Jesus Christ, security theater. I made sure that I used backpack and pressure cooker in almost every email I sent for about a week. Because I really did want them to come knock. Okay. Gotcha.
They know about people like you, too.
I know. Well, it's just unbelievable. It's a little bit like seeing Chris Ray sit there while old Ted Cruz went after him about the Gadsden flag license plates in Virginia. Like, seriously, this is what you think is a hallmark of potential terrorist behavior.
Oh, yeah. The Gadsden flag.
That Betsy Ross flag?
Yeah.
You mean the one that we can see two of them during Barack Obama's swearing in?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. It's just the theater of it is so funny. The horse is so far away from the barn, and then they're putting the Simply Safe alarm system up. Sorry, Harry. I knew.
I've got one of those.
A Simply Safe doorbell, on your barn door. The horse is in the next county.
But, well, anyway, I think we're all kind of running out of gas a little bit here late in the evening. It's been a good couple of hours though here. Does anybody else have anything that big on their minds they wanted to bring up before we kind of say goodnight to chat?
Beware Dunning-Kruger. It will get us all.
Those two guys. Watch those guys. Yeah, stay
Yeah.
away from those guys. Stay away from Dunning-Kruger.
I got this image of the scene in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid
Mm-hmm.
of Butch looking at Sundance and going, "Who are these guys?"
Who are those? They're
Yeah,
very
the
good.
Pinkertons following them,
Yeah.
at a dead. But who are these guys? That's what should be played after any mention of Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Dunning-Kruger does sound like it would be the name of like a stationery company or something. You know, I'm not entirely sure about the way people use that phrase, but I just want to leave Skep with something. I was looking at something a customer sent me today with a proposal for how nothing should be changed security-wise because everything's fine just the way it is.
Always.
And he ended this thing saying, and so I think it is a proven approach and not a liability from the perspective of security. It took every ounce of discretion I had not to send back a letter saying, well, that's probably the way the people in the World Trade Center felt on September 10th.
everything will be fine.
Everything will be fine. We've never had any planes run into this building before. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
Don't even worry about it. We have a proven record of not being run into by airplanes. It's like,
oh my
God forbid you try to get ahead of a security problem.
You know what you should label that email?
Yeah.
White Star Line Bulletin.
Yeah.
This is fine.
And with that morbid thoughts, we will thank chat for coming out and seeing us. Thank you guys for coming out, being a part of this. So good to see everybody. Thank you, Prospero and Harry, for hanging with me last couple of hours. It's great fun, and we'll do it again next week. Of course, we do it every Saturday night too on Harry's show. So please come out and see us then. But for tonight, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.